I am inspired to share this video with you after meeting with a client this morning. It's her fourth session and she tells me how energized she feels. So different to going to the gym and lifting weights, which is what she was told to do because she's losing muscle mass. And how many of you watching this, especially if you are women, that have been told that as you get older, you're losing muscle mass and that you need to do weight training or resilient training or add kind of load to your body for osteoporosis and so on. So I'm here to shift that paradigm through our understanding of fascial anatomy. You can become strong without having to lift weights. You can become supple without the need to stretch. And you can calm your mind through your body. And this is what soma sensing guides you to. What I love about somatic practice, and especially soma sensing and the way that I've come to this, is that I don't have to convince you. I don't have to tell you what's right or wrong. What we work with instead is to connect you to your inner knowing, to your sensory awareness, and experience the way your body can feel so that you can compare it to maybe something else. And then it's really up to you. But I really want to dive in and share with you this journey of coming to fascia and how it lies at the heart of our well-being. So before this practice, I was a master at cueing correct alignment, teaching people how to breathe well, different ways of moving to modify. And with this practice, there's no need to cue any of that. And that's because we are shifting the way we are looking at anatomy. And the people that I've learned from, and if you haven't watched my episode 1, you could go here. And in there, I tell you how my paradigm shifted from fitness to wholeness, how it changed within my body, and really how everything changed from there. So let's start at the beginning. This is a little embryo. If we want to understand anatomy and fascia, we have to start here. And this little embryo is moving even without the nervous system. So it has information to self-organize, self-assemble, and that motion is still within us. It's within us from the start of life. And what we access in soma sensing is that blueprint. So when babies begin to move, they don't learn how to move. Movement emerges based on their sensory awareness. When babies are nurtured and taken care of, and especially when they are left on the ground to explore and experience, their proprioception, their sense of their body on the ground, sending the floor away with a foot or rocking through the pelvis, sends information to the body's fascia, which brings about a spiral motion or a rolling pattern. And so these movements emerge from within the body. And really, that's what we're connecting to in soma sensing, and the way that everything is an emergent process because we're connecting to our body's fascia. One of the blueprints that I guide people back to is pandiculation. It's that inner urge we feel to unwind. When we wake up in the morning. You can try that just sitting there right now. That urge is an example of emotion that's not taught. It arises, it revitalizes. You feel, you just feel more awake. There's biology that's happening in your body, not just in your musculoskeletal system. In the whole, your nervous system is involved. And let me tell you, no amount of stretching has ever helped getting to those areas in the body that pandiculation can get into from the inside out. So my body here is moving intuitively, spontaneously. I never know where it's going to take me next. And what's remarkable is everything feels so effortless. And had you told me in my 20s or even in my 30s when I was lifting weights that I could become strong just by moving this way, I could never have imagined it. Nor could I have imagined that I'd be moving in ways I didn't think my body could. And I love guiding everyone to this because it gives us that freedom. We don't have to be a certain way. The body just does its thing. And that's what fascial unwinding is. Now, I'm not the first to talk about fascial unwinding. John Barnes was a manual therapist, and he saw this phenomenon in his clients. And the way that emerged for John Barnes was through manual therapy. And what both of us were doing, and many in this community that's growing, is we're bringing the body into a resting state. And rest doesn't mean that you are not moving, or you're just coming to stillness. It means that you're resting from the busyness of your mind. You're bringing your mind to a particular state that allows these movements to emerge. They can be small, they can be big, but they are recharging you. So I want to tell you a little bit about the difference between strengthening to recharge. We're going to come to it later. You're spring loading the body. When you're lifting weights, you're bulking up your muscles. You'll have strength, but you're putting on, it's with a lot more effort than you actually need to. So yeah, that's the difference. So this brings me to embodiment and fascia, our fabric of embodiment. How do we hold this blueprint, and where does it all begin? And we looked at the embryo and movement and how the embryo moves at the start of life. Where we're going to next is the way that fascia becomes our fabric of embodiment. So we come back to our little embryo, and fascia at this stage is just a gel called mesenchyme. And there are the cells within this gel are stem cells. They're just stem cells. You don't have different nerve cells or blood cells at this point. And this is why there's such a hype around stem cell therapy, because they can differentiate to become other cells within our body. So let's look at how we emerge, how we self-organize, and how we become. So all our biological systems start out as stem cells at embryo stage, stem cells in a gel that differentiate to become our body systems, nervous system, circulatory system, and also our organs of the body, right? And this is why it's so important to come to the start of life to learn about anatomy rather than at the end of life at dissection. So now that we're understanding embryology, we can understand the biology of our wholeness and the importance of fascia, because stem cells are in this mesenchyme, remember, which is fascia, right? And of course, some of those stem cells differentiate to become fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are the cells that build our body's fascia, our collagen and the ground substance, the soup. It keeps continuing to produce that throughout our lifetime. So as the body differentiates, our fibroblast cells also differentiate our fascia. Even though it's one system, it creates loose and dense connective tissue to give our body structure and form. And the most abundant form of this matrix of fascia is the ground substance, the gel. And within this matrix live the cells of the body. So even though we look at fascia as a separate system, it of course unites every other system, and we'll be diving into its properties and why they matter, and how it becomes our go-to for our well-being. So what does this mean? And just to kind of recap and simplify, fascia unites all of our biology. So it doesn't matter what therapy you are going to, you're not working with a separate system. The fascia is still involved. So if you're going to a chiropractor, or you go to an osteopath, or even if you go to a Reiki practitioner, a reflexologist, for acupuncture, for Bowen technique. It doesn't matter what therapy you're going for. The fascia is always involved, and this is why it's so important for practitioners to become familiar with this biological system of the body that unites everything. And it's because when I'm saying everyone is working with fascia, they may or may not know that they are, but when you understand its integration and the importance of bringing the body to a quiet state, we can understand how fascia reorganizes. And fascia reorganizes when we release the stuckness and stiffness in the loose gel. The gel, the most abundant, of course, is the gel. And when the gel becomes stiff and stuck, we feel inflammation, chronic pain. And if we can understand how to go from stuckness or strain and tension or extra tension in the body, we can find releasing sensations. So you might go through, for example, to a myofascial release practitioner who might release some of your fascial tissue, but then you also want to have movement in your fascial network. So how do you find something that integrates the whole? And this is where, for me, the fascial unwinding stands out, because it's almost like you're integrating 10 therapies into one. And now I'm not saying, leave out anything else. I'm just saying understand the fascial system so that you know what really matters, what the properties of fascia are, and how the anatomy of fascia integrates everything. You can learn how to regulate the nervous system if you understand how fascia behaves. And really, that's all I'm sharing here. And I mean, I'm not the one that's coming up with the research, of course. I'm talking from learning from my mentors, from understanding fascia research. And I will link in the description some of the places that you should be looking at to deepen your knowledge of fascial anatomy. Okay, so I want to dive into 10 properties of fascia. And the first one is that fascia is continuous. There is no beginning, there's no end. It is one fabric, one whole, from skin to bone, from the inside out. There is no separation. Different densities, but nothing is separate. No individual muscles, no joints in the body. Your arm bone doesn't join, it is continuous. It forms what we call a tension network throughout the body. So what that means is that the body's fascia, when it becomes our form, is held by the forces of tension and compression. There's a force pushing out and a force pushing in. And what I have here is kind of a spider's web, right? From the inside out, it's held. And it's held in a round rather than a stacking structure. We're going to look into that a little bit deeper. The third is that fascia is super sensory. You are adapting, your body's adapting to sensation from moment to moment, even beneath your awareness. And it's not just through whether you're moving or you're sedentary or not moving. It's also responding to your emotional state. So how you feel happens in your body, and it's how stress and trauma become held in the body. Your fascia is also intertwined with your nervous system. So habitual patterns can become stuck in the body. And this is where tuning into the body's own self-sensing, self-regulatory process can heal trauma through the body. It can unwind habitual patterns. The fourth is that fascia is like a living spring within us. It's dynamically storing and releasing energy. When it is hydrated, when fascia is healthy, we feel bouncy, energized, we feel spring-like. And when we practice fascial unwinding is an energy restoring state. And what we often find, I know with my body, I've often found the urge to jump or to run. And this is an image of a springbok. Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite animals. I love it. It's just got this kind of springiness. Kangaroo is another example of the spring loading, this elastic recoil. So instead of thinking of bulking up with weights to make you strong, ooh, this is how your body becomes strong, by storing energy. The fifth is proprioception. So propriosenses are the way that our body experiences motion in space. Now, from a movement perspective, I would describe proprioception, especially in somatic practice, with the way that we sense our body on the ground. So the weight of our body, the pressure of our body. A body scan is a good example of proprioception, sensing the way the feet make contact with the ground, for example, which is different to interoception. And this is where we get to the heart of healing. Interoception is linked to how our nervous system sends us sensory information from within. Now, the easiest way that I can describe it is our everyday sensations, like we might feel thirsty or hungry. Our cravings are interoceptive. Pain, a bit of stiffness is an interoceptive sensation. The urge to pee, butterflies in our tummy, that's what interoception is. But here's the cool thing about our body's fascia, and we're learning this through the work of Robert Schleip, who's a fascia researcher. And it's where I got this information from, that our body's fascia is embedded with interstitial receptors, these free nerve endings. And he cites the work of Dr. Bud Craig, who is a neuroscientist, who also talks about these free nerve endings in our body. And the remarkable thing about these nerve endings is they go to a part of our brain called the insula. And the insula is associated with our emotional regulation, with how we feel, with our self-awareness, our embodiment. And so this is why it's going beyond the physical. But here's the coolest thing. If you are tuning in to adjust your body to find ease or softness or come to a state of rest, you're shifting your emotional state as well as your body physiological state. Everything's happening at once. And in soma sensing, this is what we dive into, the sensory nature of fascia and its interoception. Oh, before I forget, with the work of Robert Schleip, and you'll see our video here, you can hear my kind of interview with him. 80% of free nerve endings in fascia go to the insula. Did I mention that? Oh, I just had to mention it again. I just find this so amazing. I will do another video on the C fibers. That's what they are. C fibers. I'll do that in the next video. Okay, we come to number 7, and it's intertwined with interoception. Fascial hydration. Oh my goodness. This really lies at the heart of recharging our body's fascia, where it's not about the amount of water that you drink, but it's the viscosity of your body's fascia. If you're feeling stiff or stuck, when we begin to move to hydrate, it's improving the glide, the viscosity. It's improving the lubrication of our body's fascia. It's calming inflammation. It's kind of promoting vitality and flow. So it gets us to experience how our body's moving. And these movements, hydrating movements, are oscillations, pulsing movements. No stretching, pulsing, hydrating. Ooh, and this one, pandiculation. Ooh, ooh. It's an inside out whole body hydration, recharges. Oh, it's kind of the thing that makes us strong, supple, and pain-free. It brings us to number 8, our body's self-healing ability. So by now, you're hopefully getting this picture of how the body repairs itself, how fascia can repair and remodel and self-organize through hydration in particular, how these fibroblast cells that we have in our body can repair and remodel. By the way, if you have scar tissue, it's not going to completely unwind the scar, but it will change the appearance of the scar. So when you cut something, if you have had surgery, the fascia will bind, it will still repair, but it might not be to its original state. But we can improve the hydration and the viscosity of the entire web. Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention around continuity is that if you have a restriction if you think that you have a dodgy hip or a knee, it's not just in that area, it's affecting the whole. So if you come to me with, say, knee pain or hip pain, I may not be working at the site of where you're experiencing pain. I may just give you a whole body motion or an oscillating movement where you're hydrating the whole fascia, and ooh, it's going to release. Now, isn't that just amazing? We come to number 9, and because we are moving our body this way, we are supporting our entire biological system. So we're supporting everything in our body. We experience the sense of wholeness in this practice. And this is where we shift from fitness to wholeness and to well-being. And number 10, it means that we have this lifelong plasticity. Why is this so important? It's because it doesn't matter how old you are. So when you're aging and you feel like, oh, you can't move at a certain age, it's not true. You can change even with the amount of hyaluron that you have. Hyaluronan is the water absorbing molecule that gives us our gel-like consistency in our body, and we lose that as we age. But even with the hyaluron that we have, we can definitely continue to hydrate and to recharge our body. So I want to get into some of the definitions of fascia, and I'm going to give you a couple of my favorites. Neil Thies is a professor of pathology. He's written this amazing book called Notes on Complexity, and it goes beyond our imagination of fascia as just a fabric. It takes us back to embryology and how molecules, remember the stem cells in a gel. Neil Thies takes it further into helping us to understand how living systems organize themselves. So from the smallest molecule, so from the smallest kind of to the whole, it begins at that start of just cells, molecules coming together, communicating with each other within this matrix. And what Neil Thies describes as fascia, what we call fascia, he called interstitium. He'd written an article a while back, I think it was in 2018 or 19, and that's when we first, as a fascia community, the Fascia Congress is a community of researchers, clinicians, movement professionals, body workers that had come together to explore and exchange information about this tissue. And Neil Thies has brought in an amazing way of exploring the nature of our design. And what I love about his work is how he talks about a consciousness beyond our mind and what I call an inner knowing. The other definition of fascia that I love is from John Sharkey, who is one of my mentors, and the way that he describes fascia resonates for me as an instrument, a musical instrument. So we are attuning our body. our body's resonating, it's vibrating, it's oscillating, it has a frequency, and our body's like an orchestra playing music. And if one part of it is out of tune, it's the whole that's out of tune. And this is why we can access attuning our body through our fascia. And the other is from the osteopathic research and foundation of osteopathic research, and they describe fascia as holographic, the tissue that holds information about the whole. And you can go and look into that or pause this and read this if you wish. I'm just going to guide you to a few of these. And I really want to help you to understand, well, what is this fascia made from? And really, the gel is water, it's starch and protein. And the protein are fibers, they are collagen. So you will have heard about collagen in our skin. Everyone's kind of always obsessed with collagen, aging, how we need to take collagen, improve collagen. Well, that's because our scaffolding, our body's form is made up of collagen, right? Elastin gives us elasticity. Reticulin, it's the stuff that keeps the skin of our body where it is, it stops it from kind of slipping. But most of all, you want to understand that we are mostly water, 60 to 70%. And in soma sensing, I love giving these metaphors around this gel in our body when we're exploring the soft body bounce. So we are starch, protein, water, and the gel is what we focus on. Hyaluron is a water attracting molecule in our body's matrix. Remember the mesenchyme I talked about at the start. You have this molecule called hyaluron. It's water attracting. It's what forms the gel. I'm going to create another video on our body's water, easy water, exclusion zone water, and we're going to bring in the work of Gerald Pollack. We can't talk about fascia without that. But for the purpose of this video, I just wanted to get on here to give you some kind of overview. So I hope that's starting to give you enough about, hey, we need to have a paradigm shift. I wonder if it is for you. And if it is, just drop me a note. I'd really love to hear what this has meant for you. And in this next segment, I want to talk a little bit about how do we begin to shift our paradigm from a movement perspective, especially if you're a body worker or someone who's looking for manual or movement therapy. We're going to talk about how do we shift it. So the first, my number one for you, is around posture and alignment. We need to move away of the body as a stacking structure or a column, one vertebra on top of the other, and you're trying to pull your body into alignment. It's going to add strain in your body. And remember, we talked about, you can go back and look at tensegrity. The bones are suspended, they are already held in our body. Biotensegrity is a term that is used by Stephen Levin, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and he's really made such a huge contribution to understanding our body from a stacking structure to a body that's held in the round, but like this grapefruit, right? Our body is pre-tensioned. Well, what does that mean? It means that we can tune in, and you can try this right now if you're sitting, is just find what feels most easeful in your body. Feel free to shape change. And we want to release the strain in our body. We're not adding more strain or tension to the body. It's already held. We need to release the strain. The next is that when you are releasing strain in your body, our body is already energy efficient. We don't need to add effort to make it more strong, but we do need to add some kind of movement that's natural, that allows the body to recharge. We already have an inner stability. We don't need to pull in the core. We can hold our body independent of gravity, which means we're not having to pull our body and strengthen it against gravity. Gravity is a weaker force than the forces that are there within our body. And that when we are moving, everything moves. So if I'm kind of sitting and I adjust, everything moves. The force transmits throughout the body. You're not just moving one part. It doesn't matter what you're doing, the force transmits throughout. Now, here's my one thing that I want you to take away, that the body moves efficiently when it's moving to its natural pattern in a spiral. So when we go back to our little baby moving, you'll see the baby moves in a spiral motion, it's rolling, and in somatic practice, we bring you back to those natural movement patterns. Prescribed movement patterns go against the nature of our design, and that's why it feels effortful. If you're moving your body in a spiral motion, it's going to feel effortless. Yeah, brings me to, everything in nature is in spirals. So our blueprint is based on nature's design. Everything is designed to move efficiently, and everything is molded into a shape that's in a spiral. So you just need to look to nature to recognize that we are nature. And that brings me to how we've got to stop thinking of this body in a particular way. We can shape change. So if you're sitting in your chair and you're thinking, oh, I'm in really bad posture, please forget about that. Instead, let your body move around, find what feels easeful. Feel free to shape change, and you'll notice that your body has a spontaneous sigh. So yeah, that's my go-to, and you can practice some of my sessions here on. So what does this mean for you? What are you going to take away today that's going to help you tap into your body wisdom? Okay, maybe you'll take one thing away, which is just to take a moment to pause, to tune in and notice if there are any areas of stuckness or strain in your body. Feel free to adjust and notice whether there's a change in the gel of your body. And just allow your body to self-organize and feel held rather than having to pull your shoulders back or pull your core in. Allow your body to come to inner ease. And if you think that, oh, I'm going to be slouching, or we need to shift that paradigm. It's none of that's going to happen. So yeah, if you can take that away. So it doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, where you live, what gender you are. When you come to quiet, you are accessing your inner knowing. You're connecting to something beyond your mind, and it just takes you on a journey. And we begin to shift from a body as just being this physical structure to our sense of wholeness, our sense of wisdom that just takes us beyond everything. And we begin to discover, we begin to recognize our learned patterns from who we are. We begin to accept our sense of wholeness. We begin to recognize that we don't need to be perfect. There is no right or wrong. There's just an exploration, a discovery, and observing. And I want to leave you today with another lesson that I'm going to share with you, to experience a somatic grounding practice, just coming home to your body and beginning this exploration of fascial unwinding. And I'd love to hear from you and how it lands for you. Yeah, I hope there's something that's useful for you in this lesson.